Welcome back to the Feel Like Krys podcast, coming to you live from mi oficina. That's office in Spanish. I taught the crew another Spanish word this week. Well, página, page, página and oficina. Look at us. Oh, almost fluent. Oh, what are we talking about today? I am sort of on a kick with this one certain topic. And I've just, in every coaching session I've had this week and with every single person, I feel like I've been talking about this. So I'm like, let me record a podcast about this. But first, before I get into our topic today, I want to say thank you for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. It really means a lot to me. It takes a tremendous amount of effort to be consistent with these. Like, I do have so much to say, but for some reason to sit down and record it, it takes an extra level of effort. And it really helps when you guys share it or you comment or you tell me that something I said was helpful. It's encouragement, Sometimes even a coach needs to be encouraged a little bit. So I just want to thank you in advance for listening, for being here. And if this podcast makes you think of someone that might need to hear the message, I encourage you to share it with them. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the topic today, which is, well, let me ask you a question. When it comes to routine, right? Like when it comes to what you do on a daily basis and like getting into a fitness routine and really feeling like you're on track. I just put air quotes up if you're not watching the video. By the way, you can watch this podcast on my YouTube channel. It's Fit Like Krys on YouTube. But you could also listen right where you're listening right now. But if you're a visual person and you want to see me, I'm here. So when I start training new people, there's always sort of this very, very like narrow goal, which is, it's actually a good thing. Like I love when people have a specific thing that they're working towards. Pros and cons to that. And pros to that is it's sort of like if you have a clear goal, it's a clearer path to get there. And then the cons of that is typically that goal is just one slice of the wellness pie. And that's what I coach and that's what I teach. It's sort of overall wellness. To achieve sort of one component of that, you can achieve it, but you can only sustain it if you have all of the other sort of components in play. I think what would be, so today I'm going to give you the one thing that every single person should be doing every day. The one thing that across the board, doesn't matter what your goals are, it doesn't matter what your priorities are, the one thing that if you commit to this one thing every day, it will change your life. But before I tell you that, I want to kind of break down my pillars and definition of wellness. So let's get a really good example. Like weight loss is very common, right? You want to lose weight so we can, move more and adjust the diet to prioritize maybe leaner foods, whole foods, less processed stuff. That typically works pretty well. But oftentimes you'll start to get results by making those very, obvious changes, like with your movement and your nutrition. But after a couple weeks, life starts to life. And haters gonna hate. People start gonna see you getting progress and they'll be like, hey, just have this beer, Susie. Oh, why aren't you eating fries? Like that just starts to happen. And if you don't have the other pieces of your wellness routine in place to hold together the things like nutrition and movement, it falls apart. It's really hard to stay to stay the course of prioritizing yourself. So today I'm going to give you the one thing out of everything, out of water, out of 10,000 steps, out of prioritizing protein, out of getting a workout in, out of like all the sort of checks that I give people to hit and all the things. I'm going to give you the one thing you can put on your checklist, the one thing that if you do this every day, it doesn't matter if you're traveling, it doesn't matter if you're doing a social event, it doesn't matter if it's a Saturday, like wherever you find it challenging to sort of stay the course and prioritize your health and stay fit. Fit is a mindset. This one thing that I'm going to tell you today is sort of the secret to unlocking everything else. But again, before that, I want to give you the pillars of wellness, which this could be its own podcast in and of itself, and maybe it will be, but I just want to give you a brief sort of overview. When I give someone a plan, it has four components. Now, even though there typically are multiple things within that plan, and the plan that I'm talking about is when you do bikini boot camp with me or one-on-one coaching with me, right? I have a very specific ratio of things that I give to people based on their lifestyle, their body, their goals, and a few other components. And if you have not done bikini boot camp or one-on-one coaching and you struggle with getting results and you feel like you're like a hamster in a hamster wheel, stop putting it off and just do it now. It's a program, bikini boot camp specifically, like one-on-one coaching is a little more intense, maybe. It's just like a lot of me. Bikini boot camp has that element of group accountability in it, and it's fun and it works. And we're going into our 6th year, and I've been running the program every 6 weeks. So it's a wonderful program for any goal, and specifically just to get you out of your own head. And it doesn't matter what stage of life you are in. Maybe you've done a bikini boot camp before and you've sort of like lost your steam, or your routine is not working anymore. So it's a 6-week period to like really get it all together. And the one thing, so the program, or the checklist, the wellness, the criteria, what is included, it's 4 components. Okay, the first component is moving, right? Like movement. There are so many different ways to get to the same place in all of these sort of pieces that I'm talking about. So movement is one of the areas that I make sure that there are not just one, but 2 or more options for movement so that it can be done on a daily basis. The second piece is nutrition. So this could be also something that you write down, because when you're making your own plan, and especially if you've trained with me before and you have a checklist and you want to learn how to make your own checklist, these are the 4 components that your checklist should always hit. By the way, do I have it in my office right now? I just published my latest planner. You can order it before May 1st. You're going to get free shipping. And I think I'm throwing in something else with it, but I'm going to keep that a surprise. But order the planner, and it's going to help. What I'm talking about today is going to go hand in hand if you have the planner already. Some of you already have it if you ordered it, or if you do get it. And that's going to sort of help you continue to prioritize yourself in the way that has worked for me for the past 6 years. Consistency, that's sort of my middle name. That's what I think of. Like, if I would say, what am I the best at? It would be being consistent. And it's because I have this method, I have this thing that I follow, and that's what I train people with. So back to it. So we have the 4 components. The first is movement. Okay, you have to have a couple options there. The second is nutrition. The nutrition piece is different for everybody depending on your goal. And there's so many things that you can have, but you have to address it in a daily way. The third is planning. So there has to be a component of like writing things down or prepping things, or again, there are so many ways, like a brain dump, a reflection at the end of the day. Like, there are so many ways that I've come up with to help to plan. And then the fourth component is spirituality. So this is something that's really personal and unique to every single person. But I find that when you connect spirituality to your daily routine, it becomes that much stronger, because it's not just about like surface level things. You're tapping into something deeper, whether that's like meditation or prayer. Those are probably the 2 top things that I would recommend. But it's a moment where you're taking a moment to like tap in, to connect to something sort of bigger than yourself or yourself. It kind of depends what that spirituality means to you, but including it in the conversation when it comes to your daily routine, mind, body, spirit, right? Like, how does your spirit feel. Um, and how I kind of clock that is peace is a good way to describe when you have a successful sort of daily spiritual practice or routine spiritual practice. You have a sense of peace. You have a sense of connectedness. Like if you feel like you're all over the place and you're like really anxious and stressed, that might be an area that you want to sort of explore. So that's something that I talk to people about individually, depending on where they are. So those are the four components. Now that you have all the components, right, there's infinite amount of ways to get to your goal. There's just like endless ways to have do arm workout and do it's like I teach classes every single day, and every single class I teach is different, even if it's the same class. Like every yoga class is different, every my pulse class is different, like everything is different. And then there's so many ways, and then your body, your mind, your life changes so often that your routine should also change, which is why my planner has a space for you to adjust your checklist every single week. So even though some components might stay the same for your daily routine, you really should be refreshing it weekly so that it doesn't become like a hamster wheel, because nobody wants to be in a hamster wheel, right? We want to be moving forward, or maybe, I'd rather go backwards than go than run in a circle, because sometimes you need to pause and step back to make progress. And that's something that you could also plan. All right, so you're wondering, you're like, what is the one thing, Krys? Tell me the one thing. I want to know the one thing. You want to know the secret. You want to know should I tell you? Should I make you listen to the next episode? No, I'm going to tell you. All right, you ready? You ready for the one thing that applies to everybody? And if you could do this one thing every day, you are going to watch your life transform. Can you commit to this one thing, this one check, this one sort of concept? It kind of depends how you approach it. But I'm going to give you a couple different ways to approach it. It's the name, it's the tagline on my planner. Not for my company. Fit is a mindset. That's one. That's not what I'm talking about today, although mindset is very important. But how do you create that mindset? The one thing: live with intention. How do you do that? How do you live with intention when it comes to your daily routine? Having a check or having sort of a daily question. It could be a journal prompt. It could be there's so many ways that you can create this. You can create a word for the day to create an intention for the day. You can ask yourself, what choices am I going to make about my movement, food? Taking a moment to say, how am I going to be intentional today? Or you don't even have to use the word intention. It's just like going through your day and being intentional about how you're spending your time. A really good way to practice this and see how you're spending your time and to be more intentional is, and something that I've done in the past, is time blocking. You could go on Google and just Google like a blank time block sheet and print it out. And if you're not sure how you're spending your time, if you feel like you don't have enough time, if you're wondering how intentional you are with your time, do it for 2 or 3 days. Fill it out every hour, everything you've done, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. or whatever your day looks like. And you will get a really good picture of how you spend your time. And being intentional means that everything sort of in those boxes didn't just happen. You made it happen, or you decided that it would happen. If you don't run your day will run you, period. We are like, the human experience is very thin paper bag vibes. Okay. Like you are a thin paper bag. Stay with me here, right? You're a thin paper bag. Your routine, your checklist, your structure is like, when you used to go, well, some of you might know this, some of you, I don't know how old or young you are listening to this, but there used to be penny candy. Remember penny candy? And you would go and they give you the paper bag and you put all the candy in it, and all of a sudden you'd walk out for $1 and that bag was heavy. And you could put that bag on the ground and it could be 60-mile-an-hour winds. It's not moving. It's not moving because so like all those little pieces of candy, those are the pieces of your routine. That keeps the bag, that keeps you in place, sort of intentional on track. Now, what happens is when you don't have those components, when you don't plan, when you're not intentional, every gust of wind takes you with it. Someone wants to have a drink. Okay. Someone wants to skip the gym. Okay. Someone wants to lay down and watch Netflix for 2 hours. Okay. Someone wants to snooze the alarm. Okay. Like everybody else's. And that someone could be you, by the way. The someone could be you, because that often happens too, where we have a goal and we set out a plan, but our mind and our idea and our emotions pull the paper bag. So you just become this whipping, flying paper bag. And that's what your day will do to you. That's what your mind will do to you. That's what your emotions will do to you if you do not have a structure and if you're not intentional. So a structure is the result of being intentional. But within that structure, and what I'm suggesting today is that you actually have a small component where you're kind of asking yourself, what am I being intentional with? This is a really good thing when you're on vacation or over the weekend. And this is not every day of your life. Like some of the most beautiful moments in life are not intentional. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your daily routine and getting towards certain goals that you have. And to get towards those goals and to see progress in your mind and in your body, it requires discipline, it requires consistency. And without intention, what are you being consistent with? What are you being disciplined with? So the intention becomes, a really good example I give for intention is like, you can eat, you could have be intentional about having ice cream with your family on Friday night, or you can end up eating ice cream with your family at night, right? This is the big difference between those two things. The next morning, if you just end up getting ice cream and it's not sort of part of your plan or your routine, the next morning you'll feel shame and guilt about that decision. If it was intentional, you'll wake up the next day and most likely you'll feel fine about it because it's part of sort of your plan and you were intentional about it. And chances are, if you were intentional about that, the other components of your day sort of balanced it out, or your week, sort of balanced it out. So I hope that this is clear and this makes sense. And I just wanted to share this so that you could alleviate some of the pressure of having to do everything all the time. All right, because there are so many things that you can do, but if you really just peel it away, and bring it down to the core, and you empty that paper bag, the heaviest piece of candy in there, like that rock candy, that's intention. And without intention, like the what will change depending on who you are, where you are, what stage of life you're in. If you're going through something, the what will change. But can you be intentional about the what? All of the decisions, not just I'm doing air quotes again, good decisions. Like be intentional about having a salad, be intentional about having pizza, be intentional about waking up early and working out, be intentional about skipping the workout, be intentional about all of the components as often as you can, routinely out of 7 days, right? Can we be intentional for 4 to 5? Out of 20, if you're eating 3 meals a day, out of 21 meals, can you be intentional about 18 of them? So it's like most of the time, you are the bag steady and not being swayed and pulled with every gust of someone else's opinion or someone else's goal, and or your emotions. Rely on your routine, not your emotions. Run your day, or your day will run you. So that's where all of this stuff comes from, is that when you're not intentional, when you don't know how you're spending your time, when you just wake up and do the first thing that you have to do. If you wake up and the first thing you do is something that you have to do, you are not running your day. Your day is already running you. So if you got to get your kid ready for school at 7 a.m., at 6:30 a.m., you better wake up at least 15 minutes before that, because even if you don't have time to get a workout in, you need a moment for that spirituality, for that planning, for that setting your intention, right? Your day doesn't have to always start with a workout. It's definitely the best time to work out because less obstacles will get in the way. But you could also start your day in another way, as long as you're starting your day for you. So the one thing that everybody could do is to live with intention. Please share this with someone who needs to hear it, and heart this, favorite it, so that when you start sort of going when you're a bag blowing in the wind, I want you to replay this episode and listen to me and understand that you are in control. You are in control. Like a lot of times you'll hear like, let go of control. You don't have control. No, no, no. You have so much control. You have so much control over your life, which is a beautiful thing. And because of the nature of life and our bodies and change, there's going to be so many things that happen that are not according to your plan. And that's a separate piece. That's acceptance and like, that's okay. But if you're very intentional and you have a structure and your number one priority each day is to just be intentional, the what can change, you're going to just start to develop a sense of empowerment and confidence and also acceptance of all types of movement, of all types of food, of all types of ways to live your life. There are infinite paths to be happy. There's not just one. You can create your own life. All right. You could define, you live with intention, but what are you being intentional about? You have to start asking yourself questions instead of just doing things because people tell you to do them, especially in the health and fitness and wellness space, because there's too much. There's too much. So you've got to start asking yourself why, and does this line up with how I want to live my life? So live with intention. And if that's the one thing you do each day, just taking a moment to say, what are the decisions that I'm making today that are intentional? How can I be more intentional with my time today? Time block your day. Write down what you do. And if you need help with any of that, I am here. I am Fit Like Krys at fitlikekris.com. Thank you so much for listening to the Fit Like Krys podcast. Please share it with anyone you know that needs a little bit of push to get they need to hear something to just get themselves on track. And the one beautiful thing I love about this tip is that it's doable. It doesn't have to be hard for it to work. It just has to be consistent. And so if you could be consistent with that one thing. So if you feel like you struggle with food, if you feel like you struggle with working out, if you feel like you struggle with water, if you feel like you struggle with planning, can you be intentional and kind of let that be the umbrella and then see where you go from there. And if you do this and you practice it and you've been struggling and you implement this and you start to see the benefits of it, let me know. My email is fitlikekris@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening. Please share this with your friends, family, and loved ones, and I will see you next time.